After studying this module, you shall be able to know the transactional analysis, learn about its origin, identify the 3 ego states and 4 life positions, evaluate its pros and cons, analyze how its importance as a counseling process. The origin. Transactional analysis is a counseling approach that was founded and developed by Eric Berne, who was a medical doctor trained from medical school at McGill University. After he graduated, he moved to New York to study psychoanalysis from the New York Psychoanalytic Institute, where the classical traditions and methods of Freud was emphasized on. Eric Berne joined the Army Medical Institute during World War II and practiced medical psychiatry in several hospitals, including Mental Hygiene Clinic of Veterans Administration Hospital in San Francisco. This was the point at which Berne actually started to develop ideas about transactional analysis. His very first technical paper, which was named Ego States in Psychotherapy, published in the year 1957, focused on some of his ideas on transactional analysis. Some of Eric Berne's important and famous books include Transactional Analysis in Psychotherapy 1961 and The Structure and Dynamics of Organizations and Groups 1963. Other include Games People Play 1964 and What Do You Say After You Say Hello 1972. Transactional analysis had its greatest and deepest impact on areas other than individual counseling, including organizational psychology, group counseling, educational settings and school counseling. Transactional analysis basic concept. There are two main concepts which play an important role in the transactional analysis. These two are transaction and ego states. They form the base of transactional analysis in understanding an individual. Transaction is defined as a give and take process that occurs in social settings when an individual or a person acts as a stimulus or another person and the other person responds to the first person, then a transaction has taken place. The part that makes transactional analysis different is analyzing human transactions is the fact that a person is not viewed as an individual but as his or her ego states. Ego states are coherent systems of thoughts and feelings manifested by corresponding patterns of behavior. Each individual has 3 ego states which include parent, adult and the child. Parent state. The parent is a huge collection of recordings in the brain of unquestioned or imposed external events perceived by a person in his early years. In this state, Berne 1972 suggests the individual feels, thinks, acts, talks and responds just as one of his parents did when he was little. This ego state is somewhat like or close to Freud's superego, adult state. This ego state is the most rational, practical and reality focused state. This state is roughly similar to Freud's concept of ego, and he says it is principally concerned with transforming stimuli into pieces of information and processing and filling that information on the basis of previous experience. Child state. This state is, as the name suggests, childlike and immature. It is like a small child within an individual who feels, thinks, acts, talks and responds just the way he or she did when he or she was a child of a certain age. The 4 life positions. Eric represents transactional analysis in 4 positions which were designated by Harris 1969. These 4 positions were formulated in order to understand various types of transactions that take place within a social setting. These life positions move as the time moves. For example, the age of an individual increases, like I am not okay, you are okay. So this is the first life position which take place during the early years of life of a child, where he or she feels inadequate, incompetent, or in Adlerian term inferior. This means that the child recognizes everyone in the outer world as superior and capable of providing emotional nurturance, and which transactional analysis calls stoking. I am not okay, you are not okay. The child reaches the second life position when he attempts to become autonomous. The child may end up in this position due to the lack of stoking. So this is the most difficult life position, where the child drives a feeling of helplessness. A person in this position gives up. There is no hope. I am okay, you are not okay. The next position is also said to be difficult to deal with and so pathological. A child who grows up in a disturbing family environment with verbal and physical violence is prone to fall into this position. If the child has not received enough affection, love, and he or she may not be able to develop a trusting relationship with his parents, leading to a feeling of distress for all wrong. So I am not okay, you are okay. The first three positions Harris 1970 maintains are based on the feeling. The fourth is based on the thought, faith, and the action. This position is a healthy position. The goal of therapy, the difference between this position and the other three positions is that they were at an unconscious level and are dependent on the child or parent interaction that took place at the early stages of life. So the life position, on the other hand, is a conscious, rational, verbal, transactional analysis as a counseling process. Transactional analysis believe that the therapy must help and encourage the individual to know and be aware of his own feelings, and this goal as an emotional literacy, which is the ability to experience all of one's emotions with appropriate intensities and to be able to understand what is causing the feelings. Transaction between two people may be of two types, complementary or crossed. The transaction is said to be complementary when the lines representing the transaction are parallel. This shows that the person is responding from the same level from which he or she is addressed. And these are the examples which show a child transaction between, like John and Jerry, where John asked Jerry if he would like to skip school to attend a soccer match, and the Jerry replies by saying, yes, let's go and have some fun. Similarly, figure also represent a complementary transaction, parent and parent, as well as adult and adult respectively. The cross transaction take place when the stimulus being presented is not responded in the same way. For example, in figure, when a wife scolds her husband for not keeping things in place, is a parent to child transaction, but on the other hand, the husband responds by saying that sometimes when someone is too busy, things fall out of mind. Here the husband talks in an adult to adult transaction. This type can be seen in figure. So there can be 72 other possibly cross transactions that may take place. So these examples are one of the things that explain crossed transactions. For example, in figure, Jean steals one of the books from the girl she dislikes most in class and hands it over to the best friend Carla. Jean suggests to Carla, like a child, that they should hide this book somewhere so that the girl cannot find it. But Carla refuses and orders Jean, like a parent, that she should return the book and act like a grown-up. This shows a clear cross transaction between Carla and Jean. Important concepts and goals. There are three important concepts of the transactional analysis which are necessary for the understanding of counseling transactions. These concepts are namely Stokes, games, scripts. Stoke is the smallest primary and basic unit of recognition, such as saying hi to someone, but this meaning is at a superficial level. The original and deeper meaning of stoking is the caring of a mother for its infant or baby. The sign of concern or caring for anyone is called stoking. This term has been used in the four positions of life and specifically in the not okay position, where the child does not receive stroking from either of the parent. The next concept to be defined is games, which will give us a clear picture of what exactly stroking is. This concept is very commonly seen in the client and the therapist relationship, wherein the therapist keeps trying to make out what game the client is playing, the way or the manner in which the client communicates, or what he is trying to get out of the relationship is revealed by the type of game he is playing. A game is a complementary transaction leading to a payoff. In other words, a game played between the client and the therapist is one where the therapist tries to reveal information that is deeply embedded into the client, and the client, on the other hand, plays his part of the game by not letting the therapist enter his mind to gain further access to information. A game is a process which helps us in understanding the short term interactions. In order to understand the long term interactions, one needs to know about scripts or life scripts. According to Bernie, a script is an ongoing program developed in early childhood under parental influence, which directs the individual's behavior in the most important aspects of life. People play out their individual and unique scripts with the help of different games. These scripts have a central theme around which everything about the person revolves. The therapist needs to make out and find out what these themes or scripts are and then solve the problems of the client by rewriting these scripts for a better living of the client. There are goals and aims of every counseling approach which are to be achieved. Similarly, transactional analysis also has some goals which are extremely important for the therapist to be aware of. These goals are: the very first step of the transactional analysis is to analyze the interactions which take place and then putting these interactions in the form of diagrams. The diagrams are made on how the client interacts with others around him or her using the PAC paradigm. The next goal is to use this structural analysis to identify the type of script the client is using and the kind of games he is playing. This will help the therapist to point out the games the client is playing and explain to him the implications of these games. Finally, the client is made aware of what script he is functioning on and then help him to function on the adult level. Then the therapist helps the client to restructure the script and make changes and modifications in it so that it is worth using in a more functional manner for the future. Positive aspects of transactional analysis. This type of therapy can be conducted for short-term treatment and can be conducted in a large variety of settings, including organizational psychology, group counseling, educational settings, and school counseling. Transactional analysis provides short-term help in developing effective problem-solving skills along with insight and personality change. Transactional analysis is a type of therapy which can be used by other psychologists who need to be transactional analysis, and they may also integrate it in counseling sessions. Bonds White in 1984 has shown that transactional analysis is particularly applicable in treating the passive aggressive personality. She argues that such individuals are locked into patterns of helplessness and frustration, and suggests a four-stage treatment plan consisting of relationship building, contract setting, permission giving, and redecision. And transactional analysis in treating anorexia nervosa using a reparenting approach and working with diagrams of the client's ego states, they help her center on her fears of growing up and starting a new career. James in 1984 has applied transactional concepts to grandparenting, showing how grandparenting can be emotional facilitator for the entire family. Summary: transactional analysis was founded by Eric Berne, who was also a follower of Freud, but soon developed new principles which were more rational. So this is how he came up with the concept of transactional analysis. He talked about the three ego states, namely parent, adult, and child. Eric believed that these three ego states are present in each and every individual and come out at some point of time in their lives in different situations. He also came up with 4 life positions which a person goes through in his growing years. Eric clearly states that out of the 4 life positions, I am okay, you are okay is a therapeutic position and so healthiest position. Transactional analysis is a counseling process which a therapist may use in his or her practice for quick and short-term treatment. A counselor may come across 2 types of transactions or interactions, namely complementary and cross transactions during the course of treatment. There are 3 important concepts that help in better understanding of the interactions: stroking, game, scripts. There are several positive aspects of transactional analysis which help the client to get well faster and better. This counseling process has been proved to be very effective by the psychologist and is highly recommended too.